coming down to take a look at it. We have a very fast presentation, just so you get an idea of what was going on. So there's no, you don't have any surprises as we continue to present it for the city and the town and the various planning boards. We have some renderings and existing condition photos that I wanted to go through with you. Some of them, if you have your brochure that we gave, they will be in there. The first photograph is what we call the existing conditions, and that's what the property looked like when we purchased it. It's a little different now in that it was a brownfield, or it is a brownfield, and we've started the demolition, so some of the buildings are no longer there. But essentially the two larger buildings are still around, because those were the manufacturing plants that they processed the lumber in and made it waterproof. And unfortunately, in that process, they use chromium and arsenic and copper, and they inject it through, they pressure treat the lumber. But it got into the floors of the buildings, and it is also to some degree in the outside in the parking lots. Originally it was going to be in the Superfund site, but it's no longer that way. We are the volunteers that have agreed to clean up the site. And we went through that process. We had extensive testing to determine what was in the ground and what needed to be remediated. Or how to remediate it. The whole site has some degree of remediation. And then we submitted all of our findings, and we worked through the process with the DEC, with our environmental consultant who was here tonight, Paul Simonello. And we have an approved remediation plan to clean up the site. Of course, you couldn't develop it, especially to the residential standards, without the approval of the DEC. So we have the approval. We've already started the process. We have the we've removed all the oil tanks, all the chemical tanks, any chemicals that were around the tanks. The soils, we examined the soil surrounding the tanks for any infiltration, and that has been resolved as well. We are in the process of essentially cleaning out the floors of the larger buildings, and then we will complete the demolition. And then we will start the installation of the cap, which has a certain has a layer of a site layer, so you know where it starts, and then fill and topsoil and things of that nature. And of course, the roadway and the buildings will also act as the cap for the remediation as we continue. So that brownfield, and we started this fall, and we moved significantly on that process. We didn't wait for, the approval of the development, and we started the process now. So the property, the inherent danger of the property has to some degree been alleviated. It's fully enclosed, it's fenced in, so there, can't say that anybody that doesn't want to get in can't jump a fence, but to a large degree it's sealed and is to the satisfaction of DEC, certainly. We proposed originally a plan 2 years ago to the city, and we showed the town as well, because 2/3 of the property is in the city and 1/3 is in the town. But the city is what they call the lead agency for the seeker process, which determines the possible benefits and impacts of such a development on the neighborhood. And initially we proposed 3 larger buildings, nearly 600 units. And at the time, we were using as a model many of the developments on the riverfront in Tarrytown, Irvington, Haverstraw, Yonkers, and so we proposed that. We had used an architect that has significant that does many of these projects. We submitted the plan with the DEIS showing what the impacts would be, and in the normal course of events, we got our comments. They were, to a large degree, fairly uniform, that the property suggested it was too dense, the buildings were too large, that the buildings were monotonous. There was a lot of twos. Too monotonous, too dense, too close to the river. And but then there was a not enough, and that was public space. So we went back, and through the last couple of years, we've met with many of the stakeholders from the city and the town, from Scenic Hudson. We had their input by way of the comments to our submission, and we worked on the plan. And we devised a plan that had 35% less density and the commensurate less traffic with that. We had, as it turns out, the land along the Hudson is actually owned by the state. And so we discussed it, and we have proposed that public land remain public land. That the state land will either remain with the state, or whether it goes to the city or town or some not-for-profit. And that would be the public space and the access to the waterfront that was so uniformly requested by everybody, by the city, by the town, by the variety of not-for-profits that have met with us. And initially we had said, okay, that we will leave that alone, but that wasn't the answer that everybody was looking for. So we are not leaving it alone. We went and developed a plan, a concept plan for that park, and we have what we believe is it's an affordable plan. It will require no funds from the city or the town. It has many of the suggestions made by Scenic Hudson in their riverfront revitalization. It has a significant amount of, the buildings won't start for at least 100 feet back from the river. There's an average of 75 feet of width to the park. It's 1,400 feet long. So the walkway that the city wants, that it envisions, that actually the Poughkeepsie waterfront will be increased significantly. And so we have that. We've actually hired a grants writer on behalf of the stakeholders of the public, the city, and to present that to the state. We were not fortunate enough to get any granting in the last round, but we're going to go with it again. And we are lining up any matching funds so that none of it would come from the municipalities. We are going to contribute a significant amount of that, and we believe, and we have had very positive results from discussions with other not-for-profits, and whether they be Marist, Scenic Hudson, Walkway Over the Hudson, all of these parties, and I believe that that will come together in rapid order once the state and we finish up how to do and what to do and how to do that. But most importantly, from our perspective, the park doesn't become a reality unless we have the development. And the development, as I said before, was not received warmly, or at least as warmly as we would have liked. And we went back, and the town wanted townhouses only. So we designed, well, first of all, there was a great deal, not unanimous, but there was a lot of people that liked the Hudson Point development and its aspects. And so we went and we retained the architect from Hudson Point. And he worked on our buildings. And he came up with a plan, and he laid out units, and these are renderings of the exteriors of those units. Now, these are not locked in by any means. These are a fairly good idea of what they can look like, but once we get through with the rezoning of the property, and we go to the planning board, they will do what they are chosen to do, and that is to refine any plan that we have. In any event, in the town, it's townhouses. The city, we had initially 3 smaller buildings, 3 mid-rise. The city said, how come we don't have any townhouses? So we said, okay. So we went back and we revised it, and now we have what is essentially half townhouses and half mid-rises. The townhouses are in the city and the town, and then there are 2 mid-rise buildings in the city, which are essentially flats, like regular flats. The first building, the one along Dutchess Avenue, will have commercial space in it, over 12,000 feet of commercial space. And we don't want to, our market studies show that there's not a great deal of demand. In fact, there's a great deal of vacancies for commercial space in the city, in the town, and the area. However, because of this unique location, we think that it'll be attractive. But for multiple reasons, 1, for the marketability, and 2, you can't have an overwhelming amount of traffic for that. We think that the size is a very doable size. So we have this site plan, which is the one that we've proposed. This is the revised site plan. This is what's in front of the city right now. We hope that it will be received and accepted. We have, in our many discussions with the city and the town and their consultants and everything, we have revised the project and essentially given everything that they've asked for, to the best of our ability, because there is a threshold below which we cannot build this development and effectuate the cleanup of the brownfields and make a viable development. But we believe that this development will work. It's probably a little, the density is below what we thought would be our threshold, but we crunched the numbers a little bit, and we believe that this can work. Because the last thing we want is a failed project, because otherwise you don't have the new housing, you don't have the people that'll live there that are, that will have jobs, because this isn't going to be marketed and will be attractive to people who take the train to work, people who are young professionals, and people who are looking to downsize their homes but want to have an attractive home. And so not only will you have this new population and this new community, but you're also going to have people living on the waterfront. And it's been shown that that is the safest, that is the best way to police the waterfront, is to have eyes and ears on it. And that's what's going to happen. So that's the project. This view, this rendering is from Dutchess Avenue north. This is the building, what we call Building A for now. It's not a catchy name, but it's the name we identify it at. And that has the commercial space on the first floor, and then above it is the flats. This view is of the townhouses, and it's essentially from the Hudson River Rowing Association looking south. So that would be looking north, and that's looking south. There are also in the brochures is a view of the entire project from the walkway bridge, if you care to see it. So we have hopefully given you what you need, given what you've asked for. I have made a note about the project, but the important thing that we feel from the perspective of economics, from the perspective of revitalizing Poughkeepsie, is right here. It's first and foremost, you're going to have a brownfield that's cleaned up. You've already used many of your local consultants to get that brownfield approved. First it was Fuss and O'Neill. We've used Ecosystem Strategies. These are all locals, and we've been using them. You'll have the Hudson shoreline will be restored, and you're going to have a public walk with public access from a public road. So there's no permission necessary to walk on it. You can get immediate access to it. No going on any private property through private easements, no question about it. It's yours to use. You're going to have permanent jobs. Well, first and foremost, you're going to create construction jobs, based on the New York State figures, the Department of Labor, that calculates there's a percentage of, based on the investments. And we believe that this investment will be approaching $100 million. So you will have $100 million invested in Poughkeepsie. I'm not so sure that anybody else can say that, but that's how much we believe in it. Initially, over the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to generate at least 500 jobs, based on, not on numbers we're picking out of the sky, based on the New York State Department of Labor. At least 500 jobs to help us create that. In the end, you'll have people, maintenance people, you're gonna have the office workers, you're gonna have restaurant workers, all with permanent jobs. And we very conservatively estimate that there'll be at least 30 permanent jobs created for the city and the town. And just the Dutchess County. So there is no, though these are concrete benefits that you can, that everybody can look at. But here is a benefit that I believe is true, and it's not, you don't calculate it from the Department of Labor. When someone is walking across the walkway over the Hudson or driving across that bridge, and they see a job, a site like this that has respected the architecture of the area, but is brand new, is big, it's vital, there's no question that they're going to believe that Poughkeepsie is having a renaissance and that is economically vital. And you're going to have that initial perception, and those people are going to come to visit, because now you have walkway over the Hudson and you have the Hudson River walking, and then people are going to want to live here. And it generates itself. So I believe that visually alone, this project will create an excellent picture of what Poughkeepsie is becoming. But, and we're ready to put our money where our mouth is. We've invested millions already in the project, and we anticipate that, as I said, over $100 million will end up being spent to produce this project. Needless to say, when there's people living here, they will be using the restaurants, they're going to be using the retail stores, they're going to be using, they're going to be buying their carpeting, their furniture. You're going to generate just a lot of nearby trade and commercial activity. So from an economic point of view, the value of this project is unquestionable, and will have a significant impact, a positive impact. And we've done the studies. They've been very carefully reviewed by many eyes, and we have mitigated any of the negative impact, and we believe that we have shown that there's a very strong positive impact to this project. And we know that, we hope that you see this, that you see it that way too. We've put in a lot of effort. We've met with the mayor, we've met with the council, we've met with the board, we've met with the directors of planning for both town and the city. We've met with Scenic Hudson, Marist, Vassar. We've gotten a lot of input. We've tried to respect all of their wishes, but still make this a project that can work. And we are prepared to do this project. We are prepared to invest our time and effort and money to make this work. So we hope that you in 3 years, you'll be standing on the waterfront, looking at our beautiful project and saying, boy, am I glad I bought here. And, so that is essentially the project. I don't need to go into the details of all the impacts that we have studied. I'll be glad to talk to you, anybody that has any questions about it. I'm going to be around. And so we're going to be around for a while. But the food is still coming, and there's still wine and beer. So why don't you enjoy that and take a look at what we have and see if you have any questions whatsoever. Thank you very much.
Thank you.